Alvin, where this guy come from, man?
You feel Alaska. That's up north, so it's close to heaven, you know.
Lord have mercy.
He done been to the holy place
before he got
here.
Via
the jail cell, I tell you. It was a long ride. They say if you want to find Jesus, he in the prison. Hallelujah.
I already gave him a tithe Sunday, and I got to give again.
Wow.
I've got brother Elder Tyrone Davis is in the room. How you doing, man? Tyrone Davis. Now that's not the singer. That's Tyrone. That's the singer, right? Tyrone.
Yeah, Tyrone Davis is the singer.
Yeah,
I used to work with his nephew.
Yeah. This young man, this is my brother-in-law. He is an anointed man of God. He knows the word. And this subject, especially, you know, when we can get talking about relationships and all that stuff, he and I, we borrow from each other.
Okay.
Now he's the one that kind of gave me the idea to remind me of the whole Noel Jones thing.
Oh,
yeah, we kind of got into that conversation.
A genius.
Yeah, he is a genius. He's a genius.
No, because we could really delve into that whole topic because Noel is not by himself in that conundrum of relationships.
Yeah. Before I pass it over to him, let the Facebook chiming here. Now, notice, Alvin, on this Facebook wall, there are probably about 99.99% women on this wall here.
Yeah, because men know the answer already.
They know the answer. Right. Okay. I just want you to know that, Natasha Miles
and they all
Tamara,
disagreeing.
They all just, ain't that something? You see men, we in the room, we're agreeing with each other. Yeah. But the women on the wall disagreeing, ain't they?
But I thought the show
wait a minute. But here's a question Michelle has. She says, so what happens if you're already married and he's like this? That goes back to earlier parts of the discussion about worth and value.
Yeah. Okay.
Because he showed you that prior too.
Yeah. See. You was getting ready to say something, Pastor?
Oh, I was finna say, you know, the show was based on a male's perspective.
Right.
And one thing I understand about when you're dealing with this, I just did a conference for women called I Am Diva. And we broke down
I like that.
what that was. It was awesome to be able to have a man pour into the women. But first thing we had to do was tear that wall down and allow you to see it from a man's perspective.
Right.
So when we allow ourselves to empty our mind from or a woman allows themselves to empty their mind from a woman's perspective because their perspective may be different from ours. But you want to enter into the mind of a man to see how we see it. This is something that's not it's very rare because many men won't tell you how we see it, you know. And when you get to the point where you understand, okay, this is how they see it. This is how they see it. I may see it differently, you know, as a woman may see it differently, but this is how this what this joker been, this what I've been dealing with, you know. So that's what I love about these conversations because even like in the conference that we did, I Am Diva, God allowed me to acronym that word down, you know, acronym that word down and really begin to show the women of God their worth, to allow them, because a lot of times women and men, we don't know our worth. We don't know who we are. And a person who don't know who you are, if a hammer didn't know it was meant to do a nail, anything that's done outside of its purpose is dangerous.
Yeah, that's true.
It's dangerous because a hammer was meant to hammer a nail. Why am I using it to try to clean a carpet? It's outside of its purpose. But once you put that hammer in its purpose, it's very effective. So it was able to show the women their worth and their value and everything like that with I Am Diva. Just breaking it down. D was divine. A woman is so divine. You're God ordained. You're divine. God made you in his image. He made you in his likeness. As a matter of fact, he took you out of man, so precious, took you out of man and took his time and made you. He formed man, but he made you.
Right.
He took his time when he made you. Intelligent. I was intelligent. You're so intelligent. You're smart. You're very intelligent. You can work a full-time job, still come home clean, still have food on the table, still discipline the kids, still balance the checkbook, still make sure everything is done, praying for people, doing all of this thing, and still at the same time getting a double major in school. You're very intelligent, virtuous.
Right. I've seen it.
You're virtuous. V was virtuous. You're so virtuous. You're so God. You're precious in His sight. You're virtuous. Proverbs chapter 31 says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? Who can find her? She's more precious than gold. She's precious. She's valuable." And the last one was, "You're anointed. You're able to do whatever you put put your mind to. And being able to pour into these women of God to let them know you are worth something. Stop settling stop settling for things that God didn't ordain you to settle for. You deserve the best. If that man ain't trying to settle down, you move on because God got something greater. You know,
Alvin, show him the door.
Good Lord! But I'd like to share something we look over so many times in Scripture.
Diva.
And one of the best examples of how you would recognize your worth and your value in contrast to a man you're interested in or have heard about is to look at what happens between Solomon and Sheba in chapter 9 of 2 Chronicles.
Yeah.
Now, if you allow me to, I can read a little bit
Please
of it.
do.
Okay. 2 Chronicles chapter 9, it begins at verse 1. And when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon, she came to prove Solomon with hard questions at Jerusalem. She came on him on his territory with a very great company and camels and bear spices and gold in abundance. In other words, this is to allude that she showed how she valued herself by what she has surrounded herself with. Excuse me. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in her heart. And Solomon told her all her questions. In other words, she asked the real questions. She was up front. She didn't play games. And he answered them. And there was nothing hid from Solomon which he had not told her. And when the queen of Sheba had seen the wisdom of Solomon and the house that she had built, the meat of his table, in other words, his ability to provide what he had already acquired on his own, and the sitting of his servants, what his wealth was in contrast to hers, because she already proved she had enough, and the attendance of his ministers and their apparel, and his cupbearers also and their apparel. Women, you got to watch a man's friends. Got to watch who he circulates with and who he associates with. Birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
And his ascent by which he went up into the house of the Lord, and there was no more spirit in her. And she said to the king, it was a true report which I heard in my own land of thine acts and of thine wisdom. Howbeit I believed not their words until I came and mine eyes had seen it. And behold, the one half of the greatness of thy wisdom was not told me, for thou exceedest the fame that I heard. In other words, the half had not been told. That's where we get that statement from. For sake of time, I want to skip down. And it says in verse 9, and she gave King Solomon 120 talents of gold. Okay, I don't want to say that because I don't want you to get to have, ooh, I'm going to buy my man. No, that ain't what that's suggesting. And verse, here it is, verse 12. And King Solomon gave to the queen, after she showed her worth and her value, and his interest was in her, it says, King Solomon gave to the queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked. Beside that which she had bought unto the king, she turned and went away to her own land, she and her servants. When you come to the table with something, as I think Miss Miles was suggesting, men will recognize your value, and if they are a real man, they won't prey on your value. They'll measure up to your value or exceed it.
Yeah.
And if they don't have that ability, you then know you're wasting your time.
Wow. Phew. That's good. Two preachers in this room making me look bad.
How?
Making me look bad because I got to go back and study. Elder, I got a question for you. Hot off the presses, Elder Tyrone. You ready?
As ready as I'm going to be.
Okay, hot one. Brand new. Says, I totally agree that if a man's relationship with God is right, then he'll treat you right. But what is the definition of right? Sometimes that husband thinks that if he preaches to his wife about everything, that he's treating her right. Isn't it possible for him to be so heavenly minded that he's so earthly good?
Wow. You know what? Let me speak to this from my own experience.
Okay.
As a young preacher, I remember having a situation where, we get gung-ho when we get into ministry. We think that God is only speaking to us and, we have this divine connection with the Lord. And we do. However, I think where we mess up a lot is that we think that we're the only ones that God speaks to in a relationship or in a marriage. And what I've had to learn, and unfortunately learn the hard way, Elder, is that we have to learn to listen and heed the voice of our wives.
Wow.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times, I thought I had the answer and I thought I knew it all. Yeah. And I had to go back to my wife and say, you know what? Throw my hands up and say, I'm sorry. I hear you now. And so it was a hard lesson learned. But I think that our intent is good. You know, as being priest, provider, protector, we'd like to know, as being men, we'd like to know that we have all of the answers. We'd like to know that, we have that connection with God that will allow us to properly lead our homes and our households. But all the times we just don't have it.
That's true.
We just don't have it. And that's where our wives come in.
Wow.
That's where they come in.
They have more power than we give them.
Absolutely.
They're very intelligent, and they have this intuition that God has given them. And they use it, trust me, and they'll use it to find your dirt, okay? and they'll find it on the first try, all right? And trust me, again, I'm being very transparent. A lot of my dirt been found out by my women, you know.
Them the ones who find
Them
out.
the ones.
They
you
be
know,
digging.
the police couldn't find nothing, but he said, ask his wife.
And then they get mad.
They are natural
And that's the truth.
investigators.
That's the first person
Yep.
they go to
Ask
validate
his
a
wife,
man's alibi.
'cause she ain't gonna lie for him.
Unless she involved.
Unless she involved, right? Yeah. But I will say, when I was married, my wife at the time did something very intelligent. She realized that I was in ministry, and so she used ministry, my first love.
Yeah.
She used that to get me, and it worked because she would say I remember, I'll never forget. She walked in the room one day and she says, Walter, I don't want to talk to Walter. I want to talk to Elder Jones.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. How many times I heard that?
Oh,
I
yeah.
need to talk to Pastor Carl.
I want to talk to Elder Jones. I said, oh, well, he busy. She said, well,
call my daddy.
Yeah. when he not busy, I'll be back. So she says, I want a meeting with him. Give me his time. And I had to give her a time. I said, 1 o'clock tomorrow. And so she walked in 1 o'clock the next day. And she says, okay, this is Elder Jones talking? I said, yes. She says, Elder Jones, let me ask you a question. My husband, he doesn't do such and such, okay, and at a certain time he doesn't do this, okay, and I need you to know, what can you tell me, how can you help me with Elder Jones, with Walter, that is, Elder Jones. And I'm sitting there like looking, I ain't know what, I had to be as honest as I can. Because basically it was a setup. She says, no, now, because you know how we say, you wouldn't tell your daughter that. You wouldn't tell you wouldn't. So why you treat me that way? And that's the way she had treated me. And I had to look at scripture, look at my calling and say, this is, and give her the right thing to say, to do. And I said, well, Elder Jones is wrong. He's wrong. And he needs to adhere to this, because you're doing this for him and he should do this for you. And I will guarantee you that he's going to be better from this day forward. I have gotten his approval that he's going to do this for you. And I had to get straight. I had to act right. And so I think, Elder Tyrone, you are absolutely right. We should listen to our wives, or we really should listen to them,
Why
because
save you some trouble sometimes.
they will save you. They'll keep a lot of us out of jail.
Yeah.
Natasha
Mouse says, God is talking and he sounds just like my wife.
That's good stuff. So right before we go to break, if you just tuned in, this is the Sir Walter Jones Show, and this is Men Chronicles, a woman's guide to men, and we're talking about why is it that men won't marry the ladies? Why is it that we wait so long? Some of us wait years and years and years before we finally even pop the question. And then once we pop the question, we won't set a date. We will tell you about a trial period, okay? And we give you all these excuses. And a lot of times, popping the question actually is a tactic. It's a diversion, actually. Yeah, it's a way to not lose you.
Close your mouth,
right? And then we'll hold you for another, God knows how long, right. And then when you finally get wind of it, then we might set a date, and then that'll keep you for another, maybe 2-3 years. And so we have ways of keeping you, and you just got to tap into your intuition and tap into the Lord. Because I think sometimes women ignore the intuition because they really want that man, and there's something that they
will settle. They will endure.
They will give him everything. They'll give him her everything.
Heart, body, and soul,
and credit report. They'll give it everything.
You can keep the report.
Yeah, and you got to be careful. And so you're not gonna hear much of this talked among men. No. Okay, you just won't. Do you know I cannot read that? Read that. These show me a sign with 1,000 words on it. Yeah. Please do. I think I want to do. let's hear some Calvin Bridges, man. Okay, Calvin, my brother, he was on the show a couple weeks ago. It was a hot show, one of my top music shows. I want to hear "It's So Easy to Love." Let's hear just a few minutes of that, and let's come back. You got Controversial Corner?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna do Controversial Corner, and we'll come back for this last half hour and hear more from my wonderful pastor Joshua and Elder Tyrone Davis. All right, this is the Sir Walter Jones Show.